Hey everyone, welcome back to another video. Over the next few videos, I wanted to break down a set of tools that I've learned over the years to help me observe the huge amount of raw footage that you are presented with as an editor within a documentary project. Now, the biggest problem that I had, and perhaps you're struggling with that too, is the overwhelm that comes with hours and hours and hours of raw footage and dailies that you're presented with. How do you view this? How do you break it down? How do you choose the right bits to start forming scenes? The first framework that we'll discuss today is to view your B-roll footage and to try and put them into two distinct categories. The first one is sequential, the second one is illustrative. For example, here we've just got a timeline. It might look overwhelming, there's 40 minutes of footage, but we can categorize every single shot in here into these two camps. Is this shot sequential in nature? Which means, is it part of an event that takes place and develops over time? If it is, we can start categorizing all of those sequential shots together as a scene. Now, if it's a shot that stands alone, that doesn't really work within this event taking place over time, it might just be a beautiful product shot that's just sitting there. We can categorize these as illustrative shots. And then we can start to ask ourselves, what is it illustrating? So if it's illustrating community, for example, or people, or camaraderie, or is it illustrating simply the product? Is it illustrating a location? Is it illustrating a state of mind or a tone? If we can take those shots, the ones that stand alone, and categorize them as illustrative in a particular area, then we can start creating bins. And anytime we have other illustrative shots that relate to that idea, then we can put all of those illustrative shots into that bin. And now we have a bin of illustrative shots for a particular tone, so that when we get to that point in the documentary, we've got it categorized. In this case, in this 40 minutes of footage, most of the footage that was shot is sequential in nature. So we can class that in our first category of sequential and start developing sequential scenes from the footage. So let's break it down. We have a bunch of people in the morning loading up a trailer with a bunch of these seedlings about to be planted in the field. We get to here, 5 minutes 30, and then we sort of jump scenes. So if you're in a timeline, you could simply just drag this out and categorize this as sequential scene 1. Now we have a bunch of drone shots, which are illustrative in nature. The important thing to note is that illustrative shots can fit into a sequential scene, but if it simply just doesn't fit with anything else, you can categorize it as a standalone illustrative shot. Is it illustrating the location? Is it illustrating the weather? You might have a sequence where, in this case, the documentary might just talk about how incredible Nelson is as a location to grow produce because of its amazing amount of sunshine hours. Or is it illustrating the machinery that's working in the field, for example, this tractor? We need to start observing these shots in these little subcategories so that we know what to do with them. Now, later on in the day, there's a whole nother sequential scene where these workers are harvesting broccoli. So what I'll do, separate this out and start to view this as a mini sequence or a mini scene of harvesting broccoli. Finally, towards the end of the day, there's another scene that takes place, and this is a planting scene where all of those seedlings at the beginning of the day are then planted into the ground. So really high level, I've broken all the raw footage into smaller little compact sections, specifically sequential scenes and illustrative shots. What I can do practically is now start breaking this down. If I create an out point, if I bring up the timeline also in the media pool and drag that in to the source view, I can hit P and create a subclip, and this will be, I'm just going to call this scene 1 loading truck. Hit enter, and now I have a subclip of that timeline of this one particular scene. This is a sequential scene that I can now approach as a 5-minute scene without the overwhelm of hours and hours of raw footage. So we have this scene. I can go back to this wider string out and also start doing the exact same thing, creating an in and out point around this next scene. So this would be broccoli harvesting. I can again drag in that into the source monitor, hit P to create a subclip, broccoli harvesting. Now back in the timeline, we'll create an in and out point around these illustrative drone shots. And this is called establishing aerials. You can continue breaking down your footage for the entire documentary into these two distinct categories: sequential scenes and illustrative ideas or concepts or themes. And the result of making all these subclips would be a range of scenes such as this, which you can now create a whole nother folder around, and this would be called scene breakdowns. So I can put all of my scenes into scene breakdowns, and these are all of the individual scenes that I've broken footage into. This is a way to take the overwhelm of a huge amount of raw footage and filter them down into really specific categories. From here, there's obviously a lot of work still to do. We've got to take 5 minutes of footage and potentially make a 20-second scene. So in the next video, we're going to talk about a range of tools or questions we can ask of ourselves to help us cut this down to create the best scene possible. But for now, I hope this structure, and specifically the sequential scenes and the illustrative scene concept, has allowed you to start observing your B-roll footage and empower you to deal with the overwhelm of a huge amount of raw footage that you deal with in documentary work. If this video has been helpful, please like, subscribe, and comment below, and we'll see you in the next one. Peace out.